Hey everyone, this is Mitch with SC Weather. Hope y'all been having a great Tuesday. We're going to break some things down in this video. What we're going to talk about in this one is we're really going to break down what can we expect the rest of April. What we're thinking here. We're already pretty much in that mid-month threshold. It's been a decently active start to the month. March has been was much more active. Are we looking at more severe weather outbreaks? Because typically here in the Deep South, April is very dangerous as far as severe weather outbreaks. So, and then as we get into May, things begin to shift a little bit more north and northwest as the jet stream on average begins to shift a little bit more north. So we're going to talk about what to expect the rest of the month, because I can tell you we're about to enter a whole nother pattern change, a whole nother thing here. So we're going to break this down. If you guys have not subscribed, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button. Growth for me is very slow right now just because there's just not a lot to talk about. Thankfully, things are slowing down a little bit because a lot of people, especially here in the Deep South, have been hit very hard. Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, been hit very hard with some nasty and damaging storms that have unfortunately took people's lives. So we're going to take advantage of this slow period, but I keep asking for y'all's support, so definitely like the video, subscribe if you haven't, and let's really get going and deep into this. So what we're going to look here is we're pretty much just going to look at the Storm Prediction Center. What do we have going here? We're going to start off by talking about the severe weather threat for tomorrow, and then we're going to go more into what we can expect the rest of the month. We're going to talk on this very briefly, not very long at all. Tomorrow there is going to be a marginal risk for severe weather level 1 out of 5 for the Deep South, like Louisiana. Louisiana is going to get hit. They got an ongoing storm system right now. In fact, we'll look at it right here. Check this out. They've been slammed by storms, the Baton Rouge, New Orleans, basically the swamp here in Louisiana. But check out this nasty mesoscale convective system that's really went into the Gulf of Mexico. In fact, I just saw an incredible picture of an oil rig, it looked like, out here that got a picture of this shelf cloud. And I tell you what, this picture looked like something out of like The Perfect Storm or something. The shelf cloud out in the ocean just looked absolutely phenomenal. It looked incredible. What kind of shelf cloud this thing is popping off. So I can't imagine being out there on an oil rig or something and seeing something like this. It probably would be kind of scary though too, but they are anchored down out there, so they're good. There's also a marginal threat right here into the Virginia-North Carolina border. And we're going to watch this because this has a chance to produce a supercell or two. An interesting little setup. The tornado threat, not very high, little 2% chance down here. Wind threats, 5% chance of within 25 miles of any given location. So let's look at the HRRR model, kind of see what we're showing here. Notice that's the system going on right now. Now watch that, kind of that same area. We get another system tomorrow around the same time period, and it looks just like the same system moving through, like just a little line of storms. It's not little, it'll be a big. It's going to be similar setup. Now look up here as you get into tomorrow afternoon and evening. You got some individual cells popping up, and at the tail end of these little lines there can be some isolated spin ups. So if you live up there near Elizabeth City, Norfolk, anywhere up there in the northeastern corner of North Carolina and the southeastern corner of Virginia, watch out, because as we're getting into the early evening and late evening hours here in this area, there might be a little nasty, a couple little storms in this area. Unfortunately for South Carolina and Georgia, it looks like it breaks apart. I know personally I'm really hoping for rain in my area in Midlands of South Carolina, because we didn't get hardly any rain off the last system, and we really need some good rain here. But check out here. Another one forms as you get into the wee hours of the morning. It's like, what the heck's going on here? You have three little what you call MCSs that form here, mesoscale convective systems, basically a line of storms that develops and kind of moves almost north to south. So definitely areas in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, if you live in southern areas of Louisiana and even Mississippi, watch out, because there's going to be a couple of these even outside the ones this storm went through. But what we're going to shift to now is we're going to begin to talk about what it looks like going forward. So we have a pattern change going up, and it looks like things are going to really stabilize as far as it's going to slow down for severe weather and it's going to cool down. So this is the 6 to 10 day outlook for the National Weather Service, the Climate Center. Big time chance for below average temperatures here in the middle of the country and even in the eastern and just a large area of the country. What you got going on is you're going to have continuous troughing, meaning continuous cold fronts are going to drape into the U.S. and deliver below average temperatures. And the way it's coming down, there's not going to be any severe weather that's associated with it when these troughs come down like sometimes they do. They're not going to be really digging like that. You go to the 8 to 14 day range, the chances shift a little bit more east. So this is a prolonged period of cooler weather. Normally when you have chances of below average temperatures, that normally means a severe weather threat. There's not going to be any chances for severe storms. Sometimes when a pattern change comes, you get nasty storms associated with it. But I don't see that really with this, besides the storms that's going to be ongoing maybe in North Carolina, Virginia tomorrow, and then areas of the deep south. But even that, I don't see that being a nasty severe weather outbreak or anything. But notice this goes from the 21st to the 27th. So that's almost all the rest of the month. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about with the troughing here. And look here, what happens here is you look at the 540 line. That's a good thing to look at here to tell you where the cool air is, basically. You've got this little upper level low that merges with some kind of low pressure here. It might turn to a nor'easter, and I talked about that in my last video. You could deliver a late season April snowstorm for potentially for areas of the Northeast. And then check out the snow in Denver, the snow in Colorado, maybe Kansas, Nebraska. It's not totally uncalled for, unheard of for this area, especially in Denver. They get snowstorms in April all the time. It's not super uncommon. But you check it out here. You can look at how the moisture is riding. It's riding kind of south, and that's because you have a trough starting to dig here. It pushes any kind of low pressures to kind of go south along the jet stream that's starting to dig, and it continues to do that. And notice every little in this southern stream right here, any low pressure that forms, it almost suppresses it because there's a jet stream digging here, and it's keeping all the systems down. And check out this big time area, a push of cold air that kind of comes through as we get into late next week. And really, this kind of goes more over the eastern U.S. And notice there's no real moisture associated with it. It's crazy, and it pretty much suppresses any systems. And finally, as you start to get later into the month, here comes maybe something to watch here. But that's pretty far out. That's, I don't know, what is that? That's 11, 12 days out. So that's 270 hours out. So it's kind of hard to talk about a severe weather threat that far out. But that's what I'm trying to say is, you look at temp anomalies and compare it with that. We start to get into Thursday, and then as we get into this weekend, especially, and even for areas in the northern areas, kind of in the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, it begins to get into that area quicker. And then obviously areas to the west where the trough is already starting to dig, the cooler air is going to come a little quicker. But as we get into the weekend, obviously the greens and blues you see and the purples and whites, those are colder than average anomalies. An anomaly is something compared to average. So these are below average temperatures. Then you see the warmer, hotter colors like the reds and browns and oranges. That's above average temperature. So we get into this weekend and notice the blues. And look how much colder than average it is in Texas. And then as we start to get into next week, around this time next week, it begins to shift a little bit east. But this is a prolonged time frame of cooler than average temperatures. And when I'm saying cooler than average temperatures, say for instance me in South Carolina, what that means is potentially highs in the low 70s to upper 60s, too cool enough to really swim, and lows maybe in the, mid to upper 40s, low 50s, depending on where you are. That's kind of like a cooler than average. I'm not talking about the threat for a severe freeze or frost in the deep south or anything. Now, areas in the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast, it's a different story, but it's a little different this time of the year up there. The climate there is a little bit cooler. It's just a different part of the country. The more north you go, the cooler it is. Everybody kind of knows that. So this pattern sticks around. You go all the way to 210 days out, and it's still cool. It doesn't take until all the way, and even this is kind of accurate, but it almost says the entire rest of the month is below average temperature-wise. You look at this, and this is kind of showing you where the trough starts to dig. As we get into this weekend, look, it just basically, this is the EPS ensembles, and it's basically showing you troughs are going to be digging here. The heights are definitely negative, which pretty much symbolizes troughs are digging. Cold fronts are digging well into the south. So if they're digging like this right over the eastern U.S., you're not going to get any severe weather. You need them digging way out here. And why you need them digging way out here, if you're somebody who storm chases or wants severe weather, man, there is people who want that. Even me, I like a good storm every once in a while. I don't want people killed or anything like that, but you need rain, and it's good to get a nice little spring thunderstorm every once in a while. So if you like that, you're not going to get that with this pattern at all. You're going to need this thing to dig out here, and you're going to need low pressure to shoot around the jet stream, and you're going to need a trough to be digging pretty hard. You're going to need a ridge flexing up here, and you're going to need a warm sector to form, and about a few other things too. But you notice here, this is kind of, if it'll pull up for me, it's just taking its sweet time. Wow, it might actually not pull up for me. Here we go. So it's up now. So basically, this is 300 HPA winds at knots. So basically, this is pretty much telling us right here that all your energy is going to be down south. But that's not energy as in severe weather energy. Basically, it's telling you, how can I explain this to make y'all understand, to help y'all to understand? Basically, troughs are pushing basically the jet stream south. So it causes low pressures to go south. So you notice how we get into this weekend, it starts to shift south. So what that's telling us is low pressures are shifting south. That's telling us the systems are digging south. Systems aren't digging and moving over us. When you have a low pressure that moves over a certain area, and say the Carolinas, and you got low pressure that's cutting here in the spring, that puts us in the warm side of the storm, promotes more severe weather. You got these things digging down here, you got low pressures over here, so that puts us more on the cooler, rainier side of the storm instead of the warmer, stormier side of the storm. So you got this main energy. It shows wind speeds aloft, up high, or high. So basically, that's telling us the jet stream is setting up somewhere around here. So, in a nutshell, you look at rain, and you can tell how the troughs are digging here. Look at here. Look how it's digging right here. Basically meaning low pressures are going to develop wherever they develop, move here, and more rain is going to fall in places deeper into the south. Now, this might not be in the form of storms or anything, but it could be in the form of just a heavy, soaking, mild, cool rain, depending on where you are. But so it's an interesting pattern developing. If you're a weather fan, it's a boring pattern developing, and there's not a whole lot to talk about. But it is interesting to take time like this to reflect and learn different weather patterns. So y'all's bear with me. Hurricane season's right around the corner. It seems like it starts earlier and earlier. So we have active times ahead, but for now, we're pretty quiet. And I think after tomorrow, we get almost eerily quiet. So normally when we're this quiet, we normally pick things back up with a bang. And I also want to mention today is the 1 year. 1 year ago from today was the deadly tornado outbreak that hit our state and that hit Georgia and North Carolina and South Carolina, killed a few people. And I do want to mention, before that storm hit, it was very, very, very quiet from basically the end of March all the way through mid-April last year in regards to severe weather. So I'm saying that because things can pop off with a bang right after a quiet period. So we have to watch the end of April into early May. So thank y'all for tuning in. That's all I got, and y'all have an awesome evening.